People think confidence grows as you rise. The truth is, it changes, and nobody warns you about this shift. When you're climbing, when you're fighting to prove yourself, confidence feels like this fire inside you. It's pure, it's hungry. You wake up excited because you have something to chase, something to earn. But when you actually get there, when you reach that level you've been dreaming about, something strange happens. The confidence doesn't disappear, but it transforms into something heavier, something more complex. It's like you spent years learning to run uphill, and suddenly you're at the peak wondering why standing still feels harder than the climb ever did. This is what I want to talk about today, because I've lived it, and I know so many of you are either going through it right now or you will soon. So let's get real about what confidence actually feels like when you make it to the top level, because the version of confidence you need to get there is completely different from the version you need to stay there. And that transition, that's where most people struggle in silence. Before you reach the top, confidence is almost easy. Not because the work isn't hard, not because you don't face obstacles, but because there's a freedom in being the underdog. When you're still proving yourself, every small win feels massive. You hit a goal and it's celebrated. You make a mistake and people say they're still learning. There's this beautiful permission to grow, to mess up, to figure things out in real time. Your confidence comes from progress, from momentum. You're not expected to be perfect because you're still becoming. And that hunger, that curiosity about what you're capable of, it fuels everything. You're scared, sure, but it's the good kind of scared. The kind that makes you show up harder, practice longer, push further. You're building something and every day you can see it taking shape. That version of confidence feels light because the pressure is different. The pressure is on your effort, not your identity. You're allowed to be a work in progress. And honestly, that's when confidence feels the most pure. There's joy in the grind because you're discovering yourself. Every practice, every game, every challenge is teaching you something new about what you're made of. You fail and it stings, but it doesn't define you because you're still writing your story. The narrative is still open. You can still become anything. And that possibility, that sense of unlimited potential, it creates a type of confidence that's almost reckless in the best way. You take risks because you have less to lose. You try things because why not? You play free because the expectations are lower and the ceiling feels infinite. Looking back, those days when you were hungry and grinding, when nobody knew your name yet, that's when confidence felt the simplest. Not easy, but simple, because it was just about you versus your own limits. Nothing more, nothing less. And then you arrive, you reach that level you've been chasing for years. Maybe it's the professional league. Maybe it's the promotion at work. Maybe it's the platform you built. Maybe it's the recognition worked your entire life for. And everyone congratulates you. They should. You earned every bit of it. People celebrate you. They're proud of you. They tell you they knew you'd make it. But something shifts that nobody tells you about. Something fundamental changes in how confidence operates. Suddenly, confidence isn't about excitement anymore. It's expected. It's assumed. People look at you and think you have it all figured out because you made it to this level. They see the position you're in, the title you hold, the stage you're on, and they assume you must be on top of the world every single day. Inside, you're adjusting to a completely different game. The rules changed overnight, and there was no orientation, no manual, no transition period for this part. You went from being allowed to grow to being expected to perform at a high level immediately. And that expectation doesn't come with a grace period. There's no still figuring it out phase at the top. You're supposed to arrive ready, supposed to belong from day one, supposed to exude that same confidence you had when you were hungry and climbing. Except now it needs to be consistent, unshakable, present every single day, regardless of how you're actually feeling. And that's when you realize confidence at the top level isn't about proving you can make it anymore. You already made it. Now it's about proving you belong there, proving it wasn't a fluke, proving it to yourself and everyone watching every single day, even on the days when you're not sure yourself. The finish line you spent years running toward. It wasn't actually a finish line. It was just the starting line for a different race, and this one doesn't have the same cheering section. Here's why confidence feels heavier once you're there. And this is something I wish someone had explained to me earlier. At the bottom, when you're climbing, mistakes are part of the journey. They're expected. They're how you learn. People cut you slack because you're developing, you're growing. You're not supposed to be polished yet. But at the top, mistakes feel like evidence that you don't belong. They feel like proof that maybe you got lucky. Maybe you're not as good as people thought. Maybe you peaked and now you're declining. Every decision you make is watched more closely. Every performance is measured not just against others at your level, but against your own standard that people now expect you to maintain or exceed. Confidence stops being about exploration and starts being about consistency. You're not playing to discover what you're capable of anymore. You're not experimenting with new approaches just to see what happens. You're playing not to fail, not to prove the doubters right, not to lose what you worked so hard to get. And that's exhausting in a way that's hard to explain to someone who hasn't been there. Because confidence that's rooted in fear of loss is not the same as confidence rooted in hunger for growth. One is defensive, protective, cautious. The other is offensive, ambitious, free. You start second-guessing things you used to do instinctively. You overthink because the margin for error feels so much smaller now. The stakes feel higher because you have something to lose now, a reputation, a position, a status. You're carrying not just your own expectations now, but everyone else's too. Your family who's so proud, your community that looks up to you, your younger self who dreamed of this, the people who said you'd never make it, who you're still trying to prove wrong. All of that sits on your shoulders while you're trying to perform, and it changes how confidence feels. Your confidence becomes tied to outcomes in a way it never was before, because now those outcomes define whether people think you deserve to be here. One bad game and you see the comments questioning if you're overrated. One rough week and you feel the shift in how people look at you. One mistake and you're up at night replaying it, wondering if that's the beginning of the end. And when confidence is attached to results instead of effort, where it's dependent on external validation instead of internal trust, it becomes fragile. It becomes something you have to protect instead of something that protects you. That's the shift nobody prepares you for. And it hits different when you're living, and there's the comparison. And this one is subtle but brutal. When you're rising, you're mostly focused on your own lane. You're competing, sure, but you're also just trying to improve, to get better than you were yesterday, to close the gap between where you are and where you want to be. But at the top level, you can't help but notice everyone around you. And here's the thing that messes with your head. They all look so calm. They all seem like they have it together. You watch people who've been at this level longer, the veterans, the established names, and they move with this ease that makes you wonder what's wrong with you. Why does it still feel hard for you? Why are you still fighting internal battles when everyone else seems to have found peace at the pressure? Why do you feel like you're pretending well? They seem genuinely competent. You start comparing your inside to everyone else's outside, and that's a dangerous trap because you don't see their 3 a.m. thoughts. You don't see the moments they question themselves in private. You don't see the work they did to look that calm, the years it took them to get comfortable, the struggles they went through that you're going through now. You just see the performance, the composure, the confidence they show the world. And you think you're the only one struggling to feel like you belong. You think everyone else has some secret you don't know, some key to confidence that you're missing. That silent comparison becomes its own weight on top of everything else. You not just managing your own confidence anymore, you're managing it while wondering why it doesn't come as naturally to you as it seems to for everyone else. And that internal battle, that constant measuring of yourself against people who might be 10 years ahead of you in their journey, that's one of the loneliest parts of being at the top. Because you can't really talk about it. Admitting you feel this way sounds like you're ungrateful, like you're complaining about a problem most people would love to have. So you keep it inside and it grows heavier. People mistake pressure for confidence all the time. And this is something I really want to break down from the outside. If you're handling pressure, if you're showing up and performing under intense circumstances, you must be confident, right? But that's not always true. Sometimes you're just good at hiding the doubt. Sometimes you're just well-trained at putting on the face you need to put on. Sometimes you smile and perform and show up strong because that's what's expected. That's what people need to see. But internally you're exhausted. You're running on fumes. You're carrying questions you can't ask out loud because asking them feels like admitting weakness, like showing cracks in the armor. Can I sustain this level long term? Do I actually belong here, or did I just get lucky? What if my best days are behind me? What if I can't do this for as long as people expect me to? What if the pressure breaks me? These thoughts don't mean you're not confident. They mean you're human. They mean you're aware of the weight you're carrying. But at the top level, there's this unspoken rule that you're supposed to have it all figured out. You're supposed to be past the doubt, past the questions, past the growing pains. So you perform competence even when you're not feeling it. You show up strong even when you're questioning everything. You smile in interviews and say the right things while your mind is racing with uncertainty. And that gap between what you're feeling and what you're showing, that's where burnout lives. That's where mental exhaustion quietly builds without anyone noticing until it's too late. Because maintaining a facade takes tremendous energy, and eventually you realize that the pressure to appear confident is sometimes heavier than the actual challenges you're facing. You're not just playing the game anymore. You're managing everyone's perception of whether you can handle it. You're protecting an image while trying to figure out your own truth. And that's a different kind of tired, the kind that sleep doesn't fix. But here's where the shift happens, and this is the part I want you to really hear. At some point, if you're lucky, if you're intentional, if you do the internal work, you realize something fundamental. Confidence at the top level isn't supposed to be loud. It's not supposed to look like it did when you were hungry and chasing and had everything to prove that that version of confidence was for that season of your life. It was necessary then, it served you well, but this is a different chapter. This version, the one you need now, it's quieter, it's deeper, it's less about external validation and more about internal knowing. It's not about proving anything to anyone anymore. It's about trusting yourself even when things aren't perfect, even when you make mistakes, even when you have bad days. It's about detaching your self-worth from outcomes and reattaching it to effort, to showing up, to growth that's now internal instead of external. You stop needing every performance to validate that you belong and start understanding that belonging isn't something you earn once and keep forever like a trophy. It's something you choose to believe about yourself regardless of results, regardless of what people say, regardless of the noise. That's the real shift. Confidence becomes less about what others think and more about what you know to be true about your work, your preparation, your character, your resilience. It's trusting that even on the bad days, you're still capable. Even when you mess up, you're still learning and growing. Even when it feels impossibly hard, you're still exactly where you're supposed to be. That version of confidence doesn't shout. It doesn't need to prove itself. It doesn't need constant validation. It just exists steady and sure, even in the middle of uncertainty. It's the confidence that whispers, I've done the work, instead of screaming, look at me. It's the confidence that can sit with discomfort without panicking. It's the confidence that knows one bad day doesn't erase years of dedication. That's what you're building toward. So how do you actually rebuild confidence when it feels like it's slipping through your fingers? How do you find that quiet trust when the pressure is so loud it's drowning out everything else? Let me give you some practical things that have helped me, because this isn't just theory, this is survival. It starts with routine. And I don't mean just the routine of your sport or your job. I mean the routine of taking care of yourself as a whole person. Confidence isn't just mental, it's physical, it's emotional, it's even spiritual, depending on what that means for you. You build it back by doing the small things consistently, the things that have nothing to do with performance, sleeping enough, and I mean really prioritizing rest even when your mind is racing, eating well, fueling your body like it matters because it does, moving your body in ways that feel good, not just productive, not just training, but movement that brings you joy, spending real quality time with people who remind you of who you are outside of your performance. People who love you, whether you win or lose. People who see you as more than your achievements, creating actual space in your life to breathe, to think, to just exist without the weight of expectation pressing down on you. These aren't luxuries, they're necessities. They're how you stay human in an environment that wants to turn you into a machine. And there's self-talk. And I mean real, honest self-talk, not toxic positivity where you pretend everything is fine, but genuine, compassionate conversation with yourself. And when you mess up, what do you actually say to yourself internally? Are you your own worst critic, tearing yourself apart for every mistake? Or are you your own coach, firm but loving, honest but encouraging? Because the way you speak to yourself in the hard moments, that shapes your confidence more than anything external ever will. You have to practice talking to yourself the way you're talk to someone you're trying to lift up, not tear down. You have to catch the negative spirals early and redirect them with truth, not fake positivity, but real truth. Yes, I had a bad game, and I'm still a good player. Yes, I made a mistake, and I'm still learning. Yes, this is hard, and I'm strong enough to handle it. That kind of self-talk, repeated over time, it rewires how you see yourself. And finally, patience. This is the one everyone forgets. Confidence at this level isn't built overnight. It's not a switch you flip. It's built through repetition, through showing up even when it's hard, through trusting the process even when results aren't immediate, through giving yourself the same grace give someone else who's struggling. You have to give yourself permission to be in progress, again, even at the top. Because growth doesn't stop just because you arrived somewhere. It just looks different now. It's more subtle, more internal, less visible to others, but just as important. And here's what I really want you to understand, what I need you to hear clearly. This isn't just about sports. This isn't just about athletes or performers or people in the spotlight. This is about anyone who's reached a level they worked hard for and realized it feels different than they expected. Maybe you got the promotion you wanted and now you're wondering if you can actually lead the team. Maybe you built the business you dreamed of and now the pressure to sustain it and grow it feels heavier than starting it ever did. Maybe you're in the relationship you prayed for, living in the city you always wanted to move to, living the life you worked toward for years. And somehow it still feels like you're figuring it out, like you haven't quite arrived internally, even though externally everything looks perfect. That's normal. That's the top level in any field and in any area of life. The confidence you had to get there, the hunger and fire and relentless drive, that isn't always the same confidence you need to stay there and thrive there. And that's completely okay. You're not broken. You're not an imposter. You're not falling behind. You're just learning a new version of the same game, a more mature version, a more sustainable version, the top level, wherever that is for you, whatever that means in your context. It's not about feeling fearless every day. It's about feeling the fear and trusting yourself anyway. It's about realizing confidence isn't a destination you reach and then you're done. It's a practice, something you choose and cultivate and protect every single day. And some days you'll feel it strong and clear and unshakable. Some days you'll have to choose it intentionally even when you don't feel it at all, and you'll have to fake it until it becomes real again. And both of those days, both of those experiences, they're part of the same journey. Neither one is wrong. Neither one means you're failing. So if you're there right now, if you're at a level you worked incredibly hard for and it feels heavier than you expected, I see you. If you're wondering why confidence doesn't feel the way it used to, why it's more complicated now, why you can't just flip a switch and feel like you did when you were climbing, I get it completely. If you're trying to figure out how to trust yourself again in the middle of all this pressure, all these expectations, all this noise, please keep going. You're not alone in this, even though it feels lonely. The top level isn't about perfection. It's about persistence. It's about showing up even when it's hard, even when you don't feel ready, even when you're questioning everything. It's about trusting even when it's uncertain, when you can't see the full path ahead, when you're not sure how things will turn out. And it's about giving yourself the same grace, the same patience, the same compassion you gave yourself on the way up when you were still learning, still growing, still becoming. You earned your place. Let me say that again because you need to hear it. You earned your place. You didn't lock into it. You didn't fake your way here. You worked for this. And now it's about learning to stand in it, to own it, to be comfortable in it, not because you have to prove anything to anyone, but because you know deep down, beneath all the noise and doubt and pressure, you belong. And that knowing, that quiet, steady trust in yourself that doesn't need external validation to exist, that's the confidence that lasts. And that's the confidence that sustains you through the long seasons, through the ups and downs, through the wins and losses. So take a breath right now. Seriously, just pause and breathe. You're doing better than you think. You're stronger than you feel in this moment. And if this resonated with you, if you felt seen in any part of this conversation, if something I said clicked for you or gave you perspective you needed, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Because we're building something real here, a community, a space where we can talk about the real parts of growth, the messy middle that nobody posts about, the struggles that happen between the highlights, the stuff nobody warns you about, but everybody goes through. This is where we get honest about what it actually takes, what it actually feels like, what it actually costs. And I want you here for this journey. I'll see you in the next one. Keep trusting yourself.